Hi everyone. So on Thursday at 10 p.m. your proposal is due. That's the first part of our final unit. So I wanted to take a few minutes and kind of go over some of the fine details of the proposal. Now there was already a lecture where we kind of went over the basics of a proposal, what it is, what it does, the pieces and parts that should be included. But this kind of serves as a really good reminder of some of the basics. So first, go back to that assignment sheet, that Unit 3 assignment sheet listed in Week 1 of Unit 3. On the second page, after the description of the proposal and what the project is about, you see the guidelines of the proposal of what needs to be included. Now these are some of the basic requirements, right? So kind of meeting these elements here, you kind of get the C, right? If you do this and do these things, you get a C, right? Kind of going above and beyond those expectations, the grade continues to go up. So you at least want to pass. So these are some of the basic requirements that are needed. First, it should be at least 5 pages. That's double-spaced, Times New Roman. If you decide you want to do single space or 1.5, that's fine. I can usually tell. But think about readability, right? And what makes sense to the eye, what's easiest to read. It should be Times New Roman. And it should have at least one graphic based on your questionnaire. Now, some things that you're going to notice that we're going to go over here in just a minute is that there's a few slight differences from the model in the book that I'm asking you to follow and a few of the requirements here. It should have the header, purpose statement or statement of purpose. There'll be a summary, an introduction, the proposed tasks. And those proposed tasks are for that next step for creating the instruction set, because this is a proposal where you are proposing to create the instruction set. So your proposed tasks are what is it going to take for you to create and complete that instruction set, okay? So you're looking at that point at what you're going to be doing and why you're going to be doing it. And the schedule should then be the schedule for creating and completing the instruction set based on those proposed tasks. So look at an example here in just a second. And then the experience. Each person in the group should have their own little blurb. We just got through Unit 2 where you projected you. So you should have some really good qualifications and how to describe that you and your peers are qualified to do this project. You need a minimum of 3 references. Remember, at least 1 from the 4 that I gave you. You're more than welcome to use more. And then you're going to have your appendices. Now, into your appendix, you will have at least your tabulated questionnaire. You may have other resources that you would like to include. So let's go ahead and go and take a look at the example in your book, and we'll go over some of these basics. Here I've just pulled up an electronic copy of the book. So I know the font's a little more challenging, but I want to show you some of the things that you should be doing in your paper. So the first is it's going to have that memo header on there, right? Because this is actually kind of a long memo in a way, okay? So thinking about that. And you're going to have the to and from section. It's going to have that complete memo structure. Remember, keeping it parallel on both sides of the date, the to, the from, the subject. You'll have your headers. Remember, again, all headers should be bolded, right? They should really stand out. You'll have your statement of purpose, and you'll have your summary. And the summary is kind of the overview of the entire proposal, right? And it just kind of lets everyone know. You'll notice that there's some key things here that should be there. So when I say use this as your model, I really want you to follow along with this. For example, if you look at the summary, the first line says, on September 6, 2011, Dr. gave permission to do this. Well, for you, what date did you get permission to do this topic? So on what date, we got permission to do this topic, right? And carrying on this way. So you'll be able to actually go through and follow this very closely, giving a little background. What's the issue here, right? You've been doing some research on that. So again, you're summarizing all that information, what you're kind of talking about and what you're proposing to do. When you get to the second page then, at least here, we're looking at the introduction. So again, you're going to see a lot of repetition. There's repetition from that first paragraph in the summary, which is now the first paragraph here on the introduction. On date, we da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so again, you're setting up that context. After that, then, you're really getting into more detail. You're getting more into explaining the problem, what's happening, what are some things that maybe you're looking at more specifically, right? So what are some of those problems? What are maybe some working questions that you worked on? And kind of going through this step-by-step procedure. Then we get into proposed tasks, but right before we do, you'll notice that there's a slight transition. So it says the following sections do these things. These small little nuanced sections need to be in your proposal. These sections guide your reader from one section to the next and forecast what's coming up. So then we get into proposed tasks, and you'll notice that there's a lead-in, right? So with the approval, here's what we will do. Okay, so once FTC approves your instructions, your proposal to do the instruction set, here are the tasks that you will carry out. Okay, and so you start with task 1. You'll notice that we have the lead-in. It's the italics, right? Lead-in. It's task 1. There's the period, followed by what the task is, the title of the task, followed by the what and why. What are you going to be doing, and why are you doing it? Right? So what else do you have to research? What do you have to look for? What do you have to find? What do you need to explore? Right? What is going to happen next? How are you going to put it together? Okay. And breaking down for each task. Now task 2 is the same thing. We have that lead in task 2 period. We have the title of the task. And again, we have the what and why. And you break through each one. Now what you're going to notice once you finish up the task is you're going to come to the first table, right? This is your first graphic that you will have done. Here, you're looking at the schedule, okay? And you'll notice task 1 is research clicker use. Now, I'm actually going to make you all a little dizzy here for a second, but now let's go back up to task 1. And what are you doing? You're researching clicker use. So you see that they're parallel. They go through each step. Okay, task 2, task 3, it's all the same thing. And then you'll notice that there are some correlations of when the dates are due. Okay. Next, you have the experience. I want each person to have their own little bullet point or blurb. So it's not just one paragraph of combined examples or experiences, but it's each person has what they're bringing to the table. Next, you're going to have your references that you're going to be using. There are 2 other things that you will include that are not here. Because you've already done your questionnaire, you are going to include at least one graphic from your questionnaire. So find something significant, some significant data that you want to use, and turn that into a graphic. You're going to go ahead and embed that. Most likely, that will be in the introduction section where you're presenting some of the information that you've already found when you're building the context and the argument, okay? The second thing that you're going to include is your tabulated questionnaire as an appendix. So I'm going to go ahead and hop over to chapter 19 so we can look at an example of that and what that's going to look like. So this is a recommendation report. This is a more formal report that often will follow a proposal and a string of making a recommendation at the end in order to take action. So as I'm just scrolling through here real quick, I want to get to the end. So you can see that you are going to have your questionnaire, same as what you handed out to everyone, except all of your information is going to be tabulated here. So all the answers are going to be combined into one questionnaire. Okay, so that information's here. Now, based on this information here, you'll notice, I'm just going to scroll back up here for a second, continuing to make you all a little dizzy. And you're going to see that they have their questionnaire, their graphic embedded into their report. So what I asked you to do with creating that graphic is that you have an introduction, right? It's placed appropriately. It's labeled and titled. Make sure you go back to that worksheet of how it should look in your report. But I want you to kind of see how it correlates, how you have at least one graphic from your report And it should be significant. So if you're looking at males versus females of who took it, the questionnaire, that's not really significant data. But maybe looking at how males and females reacted to something, right? A cross-reference, that could work. But putting in, there were 18 students and 9 were male and 9 were female, that's not really significant finding. So make sure that it's a significant finding that's put into your report. And then at the very end, you want to make sure that you have your appendix and that it's the tabulated appendix that's included, not the blank one. All right, so hopefully kind of looking over some of those minor details helps make sense of what you're doing. Make sure that you refer back to that book, use the example as your model. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. And in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week.